My name is Michael Hecht. I am the lead scientist for the microscopy, electrochemistry, and conductivity analyzer, which is a suite of instruments on the Phoenix lander. And this is the first time on a mission that I've had my own instrument. I've worked on missions before as part of operations, but this is the first time I've flown something that truly is, my flesh and blood on a mission to Mars. What's great about studying Mars, this is going to sound very strange, is what you can do on Mars that you can't do on Earth. Because when you look at Earth, there's trees all over the place, and breezes and rain, and more technically there's tectonics, there's mountains, there's volcanoes, and you don't see anything old on Earth. You can't really study history. It's very hard to study history because all these wonderful things we enjoy change the landscape. And you have to work really, really hard. You have to make a deep, deep hole in the ice at the polar caps to learn about Earth's history. On Mars, all that history is just sitting there, and it doesn't change very much from year to year to year, and from century to century to century, or millennium to millennium to millennium. So if you want to know about how a planet changes, if you really want to study climate change, you can see it all on Mars in a way that's very hard to learn on Earth. And in many ways, the planets are more similar than they are different. We spent an awful lot of time testing our instrument on Earth at JPL in the laboratories of the different scientists who work in the mission. One of the things that we found on Mars that was very surprising is the instruments actually worked better there than they worked in our own laboratories. That was really astonishing for a while, until we realized that in fact, we took the best one of every instrument, the best copy, and we sent that to Mars, the very best. So of course, the best data came from the ones on Mars. It's also very quiet there. Nobody jostles the instrument, and there's not a lot of noise, and no airplanes flying overhead, and all those other things that can mess up experiments on Earth. So we couldn't have done this. We could not have done what we did without all the laboratory testing literally around the world to prepare us for this mission. And that helped us understand what we saw after we did the experiment on Mars. I can't believe they pay me to do this. A perfect day has been going to the Science Operations Center in Tucson, Arizona, and waiting for the data to come down that will tell me about some great new discovery on Mars. After a few months of it, well, maybe a good day is starting to sound a little more like lying under a tree in weather like this and reading a book and sipping a lemonade or a cold beer and doing nothing at all. That's starting to sound a lot better now. The only day on Mars that wasn't a perfect day on Mars was the days that for some reason or other no information came back. If things worked, if things didn't work, there wasn't a day we didn't learn something. There wasn't a day we didn't get to look at really neat pictures for the first time and see things that no human being had ever seen before. And they were all pretty darn perfect. My dream for some years now has been to develop a method. We're working on developing a method where we could go to the polar caps of Mars and drill down and see all the different layers that represent the changes in climate over the years. And what I would like to do is to test that equipment by going to the great ice sheets of Earth, going to places like Allen Hills in Antarctica, and making those drill holes and testing out these methods that we would someday like to use on Mars to really learn about its history.